Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are waking up and feeling great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great weekend out there so far. Here to bring you the latest once again on what's going on with Beryl out there. It's still a tropical storm as of right now, but by the time some of you folks watch this video, this will be Hurricane Beryl again. It's in the process of strengthening, so we're going to give you all the latest information on Beryl right now. We'll talk about impacts. We won't dive super deep into model guidance because, this is coming right up on the Texas coastline right now, but we will talk about the H-Wharf model and the HFA model, which are two hurricane models, and kind of give you two different scenarios, kind of a worst case scenario, and then I guess you would say a best case scenario, kind of what we were expecting scenario, I guess you would say. I really do think that this will meet that 85 mile per hour Hurricane Category 1 status that is forecast by the National Hurricane Center. I really don't think it'll be below that. I think if anything, it'll be stronger than what's forecast. And some of this info could change throughout the day. They might bump up the intensity forecast. I don't think the track will change much, but I would definitely watch for updates from the National Hurricane Center. As far as that intensity forecast, it could bump up compared to the information I'm going to give you on this video, which, this is the info we have as around 8 a.m. Eastern time. So we're going to go over all the latest information. We'll also talk about, we'll talk heavily on impacts, guys. We're not going to speak much on what's strengthening the system. This is kind of a now thing now. We're not going to talk about steering currents. This will focus primarily on what's going on with it right now, some hurricane models, and then impacts. We're kind of past everything else, and we're just kind of focusing on that information. After we do that, of course, we will discuss what's going to happen weather-wise across the lower 48 for today. Like we always do in these morning videos. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put those in the comments below. So this is Beryl right now. As of right at this moment, still a tropical storm. I expect as we get into this afternoon, the updates that come, this will probably get upgraded to a hurricane, maybe as soon as later this morning. But it'll definitely be a hurricane by the time we get probably into this evening. But a tropical storm, I kind of woke up at like 1 a.m. This morning, just restless, and I kind of looked at the satellite and I was like, wow, man, this thing is tore apart. And then I woke up this morning and it was fully getting its act together. It's something we call diurnal maximum. It's basically a D-max. It's a period in the morning where these systems can really get their act back together. And I haven't talked much on that process, and it's basically a period where the air temperature, the actual air temperature above the sea surface, and then the sea surface temperature are at its kind of most difference, if that makes any sense. So your air temperature kind of above the sea surface, right, could be in like the mid to upper 70s. But the sea surface temperatures could be like in the mid 80s. So there might be like a 7 to 8 degree difference between the sea surface and the air right above the sea surface. That change in temperature, allows for robust convection. Okay, and then there's something called diurnal minimum, which is a period of the day, like in the evening time frame, where they're at their closest. So sometimes there's a period of more, maybe a little bit of a weakening with tropical systems during that. So I haven't explained that much, but that is something that, I can nerd out with you guys a little bit more on down the road when we have better examples of it. But this system is probably taking advantage of that. A favorable period in the morning that tropical systems have. It's taking advantage of the sea surface temperatures, which are in the mid 80s, probably where this is at right now. It's in like the mid to upper 80s up against the Texas coastline. And also the upper wind pattern is improving as this is starting to feel this jet boost to the north. And that little upper level low feature to the west is pretty much weakened now. So there's not as much dry air getting wrapped into the system. So you see these colder cloud tops. This is basically wrapping very well, and it's about to create a full protection around the core of this system, of kind of a wrapping of convection. We can actually begin to see this on radar right at this moment. So this is Beryl right now. It looks like it's starting to get its act back together, and I think this will look even better by the time we get into this evening. So let's see if we got a new update from the National Hurricane Center. But this is the latest info that we have. This is still a 60 mile per hour tropical storm. The hurricane hunters are going into this right now, so they might make an upgrade to this here in the coming minutes to hour. But forecast to be a tropical storm by this afternoon, still 70 mile per hour. But then it'll get bumped up to Category 1 hurricane status Right now, the forecast intensity upon landfall is a Category 1 85-mile-per-hour hurricane. Could be stronger than that. I wouldn't bet it being weaker than that. I say the worst case scenario is this makes landfall as a Category 2 hurricane. But, okay, this has consistently bumped east and north over the last few days. So now this is forecast to make landfall in the Matagorda Bay, maybe a little north of it, right into here as a Category 1 hurricane. So we got hurricane warnings up from just south of the Corpus Christi Bay, Matagorda Bay right here in kind of the heart of where this is likely going to make landfall, all the way up to just south of Galveston. Galveston has tropical storm warnings kind of in place with hurricane watches also in place, because if this wobbles a little north, you're going to get upgrades from tropical storm warnings to hurricane warnings in the Galveston area. You also got tropical storm warnings that are inland too, some hurricane warnings a little bit inland. So there's some counties inland into Texas that also have tropical storm warnings, and we'll kind of talk about that here in a second. Tropical storm watches do extend all the way up to the Louisiana, Texas line, and we can't ignore our folks down here to the south. We do have tropical storm warnings all the way down into the Mexico coastline here, but also extending all the way through the southern Texas coastline. So if we continue to kind of zoom out, we cannot ignore the impacts of eastern Texas. Eastern Texas, extreme western Louisiana, all the way into Arkansas. Still going to be just a raging tropical storm right through eastern Texas. Then this will finally weaken into kind of a depression, and then finally like a remnant low as this gets into Arkansas. Now, obviously, the core of this system with land interaction is going to get completely shredded as pretty much, Beryl meets its demise and just weakens into nothing. We'll finally be done talking about it. But I think a lot of people probably know this, but tropical systems can still bring a lot of impacts well inland. And this is going to do that. In fact, if you zoom out, okay, this is going to, by the time we get into like midweek this week, this is going to bring some hefty impacts into, areas of the Midwest, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. I mean, it's going to probably eventually bring impacts all the way into southern Ontario, Michigan, and depending on how much this hooks, could bring impacts to the interior sections of New England by the time we get to the end of this work week. So we'll be talking about the impacts of this throughout the rest of the week. It's just we're not talking about a hurricane anymore. But this is going to bring a legit tornado risk today into tomorrow in this area right in here. And we'll talk a little bit about that in this video too. So this is the latest cone. Let's see if we got a new update. And we do. So this is a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm still. Forecast to make landfall as a hurricane. This is kind of the traditional look. Moving northwest at 12 miles per hour. This might slow down a little bit more. But here's your traditional look from the National Hurricane Center. That cone extending all the way into the Great Lakes region. And recon's in this thing right now, trying to get readings, but we don't really have any great data. In fact, they're actually finding pretty weak winds so far in the southeast quadrant of the storm and in the northeast quadrant of the storm. You can see how it went over the center of circulation with the switching of the wind barbs here in directions. But they're not finding very strong winds right now. So, but as of right at this moment, this is a 992 millibar low. So the pressure is dropping. The pressure is dropping. So I want to show you that for a reason, because we're going to now switch it to the H-Wharf model. H-Wharf model initializing this about 2 millibars stronger than what it actually is. So it's pretty close. So the H-Wharf model, and this is this morning's run, is your worst case scenario. I want you to watch how this number begins to drop. Okay, it doesn't drop much this morning. Then it gets to a 988 by this afternoon. Okay, starting to get stronger. 986, 981 by this evening. This is a full-fledged hurricane by this evening. Matagorda Bay here, Corpus Christi down here. You can also see the southern end of the Galveston Bay up here. Gets to 980 by later this evening. Then we get into just after midnight, the Matagorda Bay region, all the communities, the towns in this area is getting lashed by the northwest quadrant of this eye wall. It's a 975 millibar hurricane. That's getting close to Category 2 status if it's not Category 2 status. At this point, we're getting water getting pushed up against the Matagorda Bay. I mean, we're even getting storm surge into this region. We're getting water pushed up against also into the Galveston Bay. Okay, so this entire region, whoever gets this quadrant of the hurricane is going to get the worst storm surge, especially tucked in right into the eye wall. So we get that back off and we keep this going. This makes landfall as a sub 970 millibar hurricane. This would definitely be a category 2 hurricane. 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning. Probably make its technical landfall before the sun goes up. And this, I mean, the technical eye of the storm, and I don't think we're going to get like a clearing of an eye. We would need a stronger hurricane for that. But it does kind of develop like an actual clearing off radar. But as far as clear skies, I mean, I doubt it, but you never can rule it out. But, you know, the H-Wharf model definitely shows the worst case scenario with this. Category 2 hurricane, you know, this section right north, kind of north up the coastline of the Matagorda Bay here gets absolutely hammered by the eye wall of this. And look, this is well inland. Look at this eye wall. And this continues, guys. And look at these banding features kind of moving through the Houston, Galveston area and everybody in between. This is where you're going to have a legit tornado threat right in here with these banding features up kind of the furthest kind of northern extension of the Texas coastline. It's going to get hit hard. And then, you know, this is moving inland tomorrow morning. So a lot of dry air is going to get sucked into this. Land interaction is going to weaken the core. But tomorrow morning, if you live in this area, Houston, right into here, right? But I wish I can kind of zoom this out a little bit. But this entire region right here is going to get hit hard by tropical storm force conditions. 40, 50, 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts with this. As this kind of the northern eye wall will be the strongest inland. And I'm telling you, you know, this is going to bring some heavy impacts throughout eastern Texas. Look at this kind of tail whipping line on the dirty side of this hurricane. There'll be tornado warnings all tomorrow afternoon probably in eastern Texas from this line right into here. And this continues. It'll continue to weaken. We got to watch this line of storms in Louisiana. Could kind of slingshot some rain over to the Dallas-Fort Worth area too. But this run wants to dump a lot of rain into eastern Oklahoma. We got to watch this line right into here into Arkansas. This is Texarkana region right into here. And then this really begins to weaken, but this is going to continue to push a lot of rain. This is the Arkansas-Missouri line. So we'll be able to get a little bit more detailed on this here in the coming days. But looking at the HFA model, still shows a scenario where this weakens pretty quickly. By the time we get into this afternoon, we're getting outer bands already into the Texas coastline. These could be producing tornadoes, tornado risk along the entire Texas coastline, in my opinion. Okay, and then we start to get into this evening. It's a 980 millibar hurricane. I don't think this is going to be as compact as what this is showing. It's a little weird looking. It's probably be more spread out, but this is further north and east than the H-Wharf model. This actually does not bring the worst conditions in the Matagorda Bay. It brings it into just north and actually affects Galveston and Houston a lot more. So this is just a little bit further north. You compare this with the H-Wharf model, same time period, right? This goes right over the Matagorda Bay. This goes just north of the Matagorda Bay and then brings a same kind of similar setup, right? Just a nasty banding of storms kind of moving through eastern Texas, western Louisiana. A legit tornado risk with that, and then brings a whole lot of rain further inland. So rainfall between now, see if we got any new information. We don't. Between now and the next, 3 days. This is 3 days. Okay, we'll show you a little bit further out here in a second. If you live in this dark orange color here, folks, that's anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of rain. You're going to get that fast. Houston, 6 to 8 inches of rain. And just seeing this lighter shade of orange here, 6 to 8 inches of rain. The yellow, 4 to 6 inches of rain. Shreveport, not a whole lot of rain, more so just banding. But you get kind of into the core of the system. Tropical storm force winds through this entire area. So that will certainly be a factor. You know, nothing Harvey, you can't compare this to Harvey as far as rainfall, but it'll certainly be a factor. We'll get a lot of rains. And just another way to look at this, a closer look, Matagorda Bay, Galveston, between these areas, anywhere from, I mean, like I said, 8 to 12 inches of rain. Gets inland, a good half a foot of rain is possible. Houston to the east here. I'm sorry, to the west. And then we kind of take a broader look at this. Shows the rest of Texas down here. Look at this area. Mary, I think you're going to get some hefty impacts. I know Mary's a viewer from northeast Texas. The core of this system, whatever's left of it's going to move right over your area. But there's going to be that swath of anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of rain here throughout eastern Texas, northeast Texas. You're going to get a good bit of rain, too, in southeastern Oklahoma. But look at this rain into Arkansas, especially central, northwestern, northern, and western Arkansas. Anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of rain, maybe as much as 6 inches of rain. And then we kind of look a little bit even further up, and we'll kind of zoom into this a little bit more here in the coming days. And this is only through Wednesday morning. A lot of rain on the way for like St. Louis, Illinois. And this extends even further out, but, this is as far out as I'll let it be here. But, St. Louis, guys, it's pretty wild to think about, but you guys are going to get rain from Beryl here in the coming days as this pretty much moves at a pretty quick pace inland. So now the chance of flash flooding in the red area, that's at least a 40% chance of flash flood guidance being met within 25 miles in a given location. The yellow, 15% risk of that. So, of course, flooding is going to be a legit concern. We look at storm surge. There's been no changes. Matagorda Bay, 4 to 6 feet. 4 to 6 feet, basically stretching all the way to the Galveston Bay. High Island, 2 to 4. Sabine Pass, 1 to 3. Cameron, 1 to 3. So you are going to get a little storm surge push up against water here into southwestern coastline of Louisiana. Move a little bit further south, 2 to 4 feet, 3 to 5 feet in the Corpus Christi Bay, and then 2 to 4 feet along the southern coastline of Texas. This information could change. Chances to see tropical storm force wind conditions. This is might as well say 40 miles per hour or higher. The Matagorda Bay, you pretty much got a 90 to 100% chance of that. But even getting into like Houston, Galveston, 60 to 70% chance of 40 mile per hour wind gust or higher. And I mean, just basically between Corpus Christi and Houston, you pretty much are a sure bet. But one thing I want you to notice here is look how far inland this gets. Like well north and northwest of Houston. I mean, you got a 30 to 50% chance to see winds approaching 40 miles per hour or higher, but you're going to get more than that. You kind of zoom out of that. This is the chance to see wind gust upwards of 58 miles per hour or higher. So mid-grade tropical storm force conditions, and you're certainly up to 60 to 70% chance of that into the Matagorda Bay, points north, but also a chance of it still like further inland. And you're going to get hurricane force winds into this too. The timeline of this, you're going to start to see it pretty much, if you're not seeing it sometime this afternoon to this evening, you're definitely going to see it overnight. But by the time we get into 2 p.m., we really fully expect some of these outer bands to fully start wrapping into the Texas coastline and impacting you guys. We're certainly going to get some hefty winds from this. And just to kind of look at some of these wind speeds, and I'm actually going to do this on the fly for you guys because I'll be honest, I just realized that I did not have better graphics pulled up for wind speeds. So that's my apologies there. But we're going to take a closer look at this, wind speeds here. If something like the H-Wolf model is correct, okay, this brings, it doesn't show the latest. That's unfortunate. So it does not show the 06Z, which brings it a little bit further north than this, actually a good bit further. We can try one more thing. Sorry about the messiness of this. I don't edit any of my videos. I just kind of do everything on the fly here. But we can actually see this right here. It's just going to show it in knots, which is fine. So this is wind speeds in knots here. And here it comes. You're going to get these winds. Here it is approaching 65 to 80 knots, which are winds approaching, wind gusts probably approaching 85 to 95 miles per hour into the Matagorda Bay if this is right now. Remember, the HFA model is a little bit further north. Isn't as intense of a hurricane as the H-Wolf model, so that'll bring those winds a little bit further north into this region. But if you actually look at the National Weather Service forecast as far as winds, that'll be a good thing to look at here. Go down to Texas, look at predicted wind gust swath into here, and here it comes. Yeah, so yeah, this is a great way to look at it here. This is going to bring, this is the potential wind gust, okay, not consistent wind speeds, but just north of the Matagorda Bay brings the shot at over 100 mile per hour winds, guys. So, you kind of look at Google Maps here. Doing a lot of things on the fly this morning, so you get to see this raw and unedited. Just tells you how unprepared I was this morning, I guess. But Matagorda Bay right into here. Matagorda, you guys are going to get hit hard. This entire region, Bay City, was that Wadesworth, Sargent, Blessing, Collegeport, Freeport. You guys are going to get hit hard too. If we kind of zoom out and look at this, okay, Matagorda Bay here, this entire region, I think is going to get absolutely hammered right into here. I think the eye wall has a chance to go somewhere into here. So if you're in some of these small towns, communities, Freeport, Matagorda, Sargent, I really think, and the National Weather Service forecast agrees too, that that the worst of the conditions is going to go right into Matagorda. That area could get hit very hard with 90 to 100, 110 mile per hour wind gusts. And look at these predicted wind gusts into the Galveston Bay. This will be winds pushing up against the bay, so a lot of storm surge. But look at this corridor of very strong winds, even well inland. So you kind of go back and look at this. I mean, Brenham, I think is how you pronounce it, goes across Interstate 10, Madisonville, Crockett. I'd watch out in this entire region. Some gusty winds into Waco, and certainly in this entire region right into here, I would say it's going to get some very strong winds kind of right through this area, all the way up through Tyler. Tropical storm force wind conditions through this entire region right up into here. So just giving you the old Google Maps version, look at that. Very strong winds will kind of move into the region. Let's look at a larger look at Texas here. See if this goes out any further. Yeah, so I really think we'll get some stronger winds than what this is showing in Northeast Texas for sure. So, guys, there's a legit tornado risk today too. This is the chance to see tornadoes in the Brown area. That's a 5% risk of tornadoes within 25 miles in a given location. You might as well say this extends from Corpus Christi up to Houston. So this hasn't changed much from yesterday when we made a video. But there is a risk of tornadoes for sure. And guys, there's a risk of tornadoes tomorrow too. I would argue tomorrow's risk of tornadoes will be more significant. Houston up to Texarkana. This does include Shreveport and areas of western Louisiana, even into southwestern Arkansas. So this is tomorrow's tornado threat. So we take a look at what the HRRR model is saying as far as that radar. As we continue to move forward here, first off, let's actually compare it with the actual radar. This is what it's showing right at this moment. Okay, you can see the center of the storm right here, and you see this banding moving in. So, I mean, you had one outer band that hit this morning, but this is the first big one that's moving in. It's going to move and hit basically the entire Texas coastline. And yes, this could produce some tornadoes, some water spouts, quick spin up. But this is your first full-fledged outer band about to move on shore here in the next hour or two along the Texas coastline. So this is actually kind of real time right now. We kind of get this off your screen and we kind of look at the HRRR model, and it's verifying pretty well actually. We kind of look at the life of this storm. A lot of these outer bands will kind of fizzle apart before they kind of make it inland, but by the time we get into this afternoon, we're getting full-fledged outer bands into Houston, Matagorda, go down to Corpus Christi, and then look how the HRRR model, which isn't a great model for the tropics by the way, but it does show us a nice look at how this could unfold as far as the radar. Well, we're getting into around midnight, after midnight to the wee hours of the morning, and the HRRR model likes the idea. It's the National Hurricane Center. This will make landfall right over the Matagorda area, the Bay region, and brings hefty impacts. Looks like a pretty compact little hurricane here, but it really will expand as the wind field is basically decimated, and this kind of just expands out. And here's those banding features tomorrow morning rolling right through the Houston, Galveston area. And then this continues to roll through the rest of Texas. Kind of take a larger look at this here. Here it comes, kind of rumbling through Texas and bringing a lot of big time impacts here all day tomorrow. So the updraft velocity swath, indicates rotating updrafts. But I'm going to tell you, with the tropics and kind of figuring out where there's going to be a tornado risk, it doesn't always show up well on the updraft velocity swath because a lot of times these tornadoes are really what we call low-topped. So there really isn't very strong updrafts with these, but they can easily spin up because you have such a enhanced low-level flow, low-level jet that these systems bring with it, mixed with the fact that you have plenty of tropical moisture. The updraft velocity swath really isn't always the best way to look at this, but it does show some spin ups between Matagorda and also, the Freeport region all the way into the Houston area. So, but moving forward, guys, that's the last update on the tropics there. We'll probably try to do it again tonight. but I think there'll be a lot of people probably going live and stuff like that. So, a lot of people along the Texas coastline will probably be tuning into the people like the Ryan Halls of the world and everybody else that goes. I think there's a guy named Evan. There's a lot of great people that go live, and you'll probably be wanting to get real-time information, and rightfully so. But let's give you an update on what potentially unfolds today. As far as what's happening right now, you can see Tropical Storm Beryl off the coast of Texas right now. This complex of shower and storm activity rumbling through Oklahoma right now is actually because of this upper trough and the energy kind of at the base of it. So there'll actually be a severe weather threat here and down here today, kind of driven off two different things. So we're getting some flooding, some strong to severe storms right now, mainly strong storms rumbling through Oklahoma. Area of energy behind it too, kind of moving out of eastern Colorado. An area of showers and storms rumbling through southern Iowa. We got some storms that just kind of moved through the Duluth area into northern Minnesota. And we just got some kind of intermediate activity across the deep south and the southeast. But that's what's going on right now as far as, watches, warnings, and advisories. Really the big story is the heat and the flooding. But you see this kind of color in red down here, kind of the brighter color in red here. Those are hurricane warnings. Now kind of the darker shade, almost burgundy color in red here, those are tropical storm warnings. They're extended pretty far north. We got flood watches up for the counties in red. The counties in green. Those are flood watches. Flood watches up here in Oklahoma, driven off something totally different. And then we got heat advisories along the Gulf Coast line here, all the way down here into Florida, where it'll be very hot again. It's going to be another scorcher across the west, Washington, Oregon, areas of Idaho. Heck, there's even heat advisories, guys, into western Montana. Pretty wild stuff. Excessive heat warnings. There's red flag warnings, so it's getting dry, it's hot, and just big time ridge continues to flex and influence your pattern out west. So the excessive rainfall outlook, we do have that moderate risk of flooding from just south of Galveston all the way to the Matagorda Bay region, all the way to the Corpus Christi area. So there will be a risk of flooding. Slight risk here, which means there's a 15% risk of flooding. The red is a 40% risk of flooding. So Tropical Storm Beryl, Hurricane Beryl impacts here. The dip in the trough here with energy embedded into it. And it shows it well here. You got the risk of severe weather today from this trough digging down, the energy associated with it. And then this risk of severe weather from Houston down to Corpus Christi is from Beryl. So tornado risk, there is a 2% risk up here. Very small section of the panhandle of Texas included in western Oklahoma. But there is a more heightened tornado risk down here in Houston that we already talked about in the update for Beryl. 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. Hail threat, you don't expect much of a hail threat with tropical systems because the column is saturated. You need a little dry and cool air alive for hail. You're not going to get that with a tropical system. But there's a 15% risk of hail in western Oklahoma and then the eastern sections of the panhandle of Texas. Okay, so the southeast today, obviously see the eyesore over here with Beryl. But we're going to get pop-up shower and storm activity, kind of like we did yesterday across Georgia, the Carolinas, northern Florida, even Alabama. I will watch more of an organized area of storms that kind of ride down the Georgia-South Carolina line up here. Later this evening, this will kind of cruise down the line all the way down to Augusta for tonight. And then everything will fizzle out, and we'll probably do it again tomorrow morning. But just kind of a day like yesterday. We'll get the pop-up activity. Nothing too crazy as far as severe weather, just normal summer-type thunderstorms out here. The Northeast is a pretty quiet day of weather. We are going to get some thunderstorms that will probably get going here in the Delmarva, maybe New Jersey today, maybe some storms in the down east areas of Maine, maybe an isolated pop-up in eastern Massachusetts. But, we get into the overnight hours and tomorrow morning, things quiet down, and it's a pretty quiet weather day across the Northeast. South Central U.S., what's going on this morning will kind of fall apart. We've really already discussed this in Texas, but you're going to get also these kind of bands that'll make their way through Louisiana today. So a lot of these banding features are from Beryl. So, if you live in Lake Charles, Alexandria, maybe even as far east as like Baton Rouge and New Orleans, you guys will probably get some clusters of rain, some banding rain features through the area. But up here in Oklahoma, there could be a legit tornado risk here. Some of these cells could produce a tornado or two, so we'll be aware of that. And then we'll see these storms kind of more organized up here in northern Oklahoma. So if you live western Oklahoma, panhandle of Texas, Certainly a severe weather threat today, along with a threat of flooding, as you'll just have rounds of storms kind of moving over the same areas. The north central U.S. today, we're going to continue to get kind of rounds of pop-up showers and storms throughout northern and really northeast Minnesota, extreme northern Wisconsin, the extreme western tip of the UP of Michigan. But then as we get into this evening, a little bit more widespread activity gets going throughout the entire north central U.S. More organized area storms will kind of rumble through Iowa, as you can tell. We could get some storms as far south as St. Louis. By the time we get into the overnight hours, we will wake up to some soggy conditions in like Green Bay, maybe as far south as Milwaukee and Chicago. So, western U.S., quiet, ridge-dominated pattern. Nothing really to speak on whatsoever. Might get some storms that kind of rumble through the eastern half of Colorado. But really, there's nothing really to talk about out here. You know, northeastern New Mexico could get some storms tomorrow morning. But there really isn't a whole lot to talk about for you folks. So, the temperatures today in the eastern U.S., kind of just typical summer type stuff. I mean, typical summer type stuff in the deep south is hot, but nothing alarming. I do think there'll be an area of more maximized heat, if you will, in the mid-Atlantic. Like D.C. might hit 100 today. So you guys will be brutally hot and humid, but everybody else, kind of just typical summer stuff. I mean, nothing extreme one way or the other. But out west, still some brutal heat. Temperatures well into the 90s and 100s. I mean, you're getting even into the 80s in some of these, you know, kind of embedded areas of higher elevations in the western Montana region, but very hot in the western U.S. That's all I got, guys. Stay safe in Texas. I'll try to fit in a video this evening, but I just want to mention there is a chance I might not do a video this evening just because this is kind of a now thing. I don't typically go live. I typically stay ahead of the system. Yeah, there'll be a lot of people storm chasing probably down there. So there'll probably be a nice feed of information rolling by this evening. God bless everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again soon.